Most people think they need hours a day to master Java. They are wrong. You only need 15 minutes. In this video, I'll show you how a tiny daily habit can land you a high-paying job in tech. We are breaking down the exact Java roadmap, the power of compound learning, and how to stay consistent when others quit. Stop waiting for enough time and start building your future. Let's change your career 15 minutes at a time. First of all, who am I? My name is Cindy de Albuquerque, and I've been working as a software engineer for 18 years. I've worked in many companies, from startups to big companies like Amazon. What is this topic? This is a practical demonstration of the power of consistency and incremental learning. It isn't based on a heavy workload. On the contrary, we are going to create a focused habit of daily studying. My idea here is to show you that if you want to switch to tech, you don't need long study hours. The strategy is to transform your learning journey into something manageable. 15 minutes of concentrated studying compound over time. This way you can build a solid knowledge base and a new skill without overwhelming your routine. What is this topic not about? First of all, this is not a magic pill. I'm not promising you that dedicating 15 minutes a day will automatically transform you into an expert. Also, this doesn't replace a comprehensive study plan. And also, it doesn't replace your dedication and hard work. The idea is not to quickly check out a topic. On the contrary, it's going to be a deliberate and dedicated moment of study. My message here is not that changing careers will be simple. But if you have consistent, small steps, you can build your future. Why is this topic an opportunity for you? First of all, the feasibility. If you are a full-time employee, you have limited time. So 15 minutes is something realistic and that you can commit. The idea here is to break the false concept that you don't have enough time. This way you can begin your studies right away. This is also an opportunity to form a new habit. Because studying consistently every day, even just for a few minutes, builds a crucial habit. This habit is the bedrock for longer, more focused study sessions later. You're going to gain qualifications. Each 15-minute period you spend learning a new technology brings you closer to meeting the qualifications for high-demand tech jobs. These qualifications are the essential gateway to start your new career. You might be thinking that 15 minutes is not enough time to learn something as complex as coding. I understand that. It is true. But the initial goal is not to master coding in Java. The idea is to build the habit. This is similar to going to the gym. You don't get stronger in a single day. But every workout, no matter how short, contributes to the final result. 15 minutes a day for 1 year totals over 90 hours of study, which is already a solid foundation for qualification. You might also be thinking, I simply don't have 15 minutes to spare each day. I understand that your routine might be so busy that you can't spare 15 minutes a day. I myself have 6 kids. I know how busy you can be. But what if, instead of looking for extra 15 minutes, we focused on making the most of the moments that you already have in your routine? It's not about finding the extra time that doesn't exist. It's about using those small breaks that are usually wasted. For example, on public transport, on the bus or on the train, while commuting to work or to class, during breaks, for example, during your lunch pause or before starting the night shift, while you are waiting, for example, in the queue of the supermarket or at the bank or at the doctor's office. The goal isn't to run a study marathon. It's about taking small, consistent steps. Just 15 focused minutes a day can get you a new career. I want you to think now where it would be the easiest to get this 15 minutes in your routine. You might also already have tried to study, but you struggle to stick with it. It is completely normal to feel like this. Lots of professionals get frustrated when they struggle to maintain consistency, especially with so many challenges and uncertainties in life. The cycle of starting, stopping, and feeling like a failure is exhausting. But what if the issue isn't you? but it's actually the approach you took. Often, inconsistency comes from methods that don't fit your reality. For example, trying to work for hours straight, as if you were in college, is impossible for who have to work, run a household, and deal with 1,000 administrative tasks. This approach here is different. We are going to focus on small and consistent steps. Just 15 minutes a day is enough. It's easier to fit into your routine. And before you know it, these small steps transform into a complete journey. Consistency isn't about willpower. It's a method that works for your life. This approach is based on three main methods. These methods together will transform study from a task into a small, almost invisible habit. First, the 15-minute break method. How does it work? Instead of trying to find a 15-minute block of free time, the idea is to use moments that are already in your routine but are usually wasted. Think of them as gaps or breaches. You can use your phone to tackle a practice problem when you are waiting in the supermarket, in a bank queue, or a doctor's waiting room. On the bus or on the LUAS, you can swap social media scrolling for opening your learning platform. A lunch break. During your lunch hour, commit the first 15 minutes to studying before you use your phone. Second method, the 2-day rule method. You don't have to be perfect. Consistency isn't about studying 7 days a week. It's about not failing twice in a row. For example, if you miss a day because life got crazy, and it will, that's perfectly fine. The important thing is to committing to getting back to it the next day, even if it's just for 5 minutes. The simple method removes the guilt and the pressure. You don't feel defeated just because you missed one session, and that makes it much easier for you to start again. Third, the habit stacking method. Anchor your new study habit to a habit that you already have. This makes the new routine automatic and effortless. For example, after you drink your morning coffee, open your computer for 15 minutes of study. Or before you go to work, solve one logic problem. Or when you get home from work and take off your shoes, dedicate some time to studying. Consistency isn't a quality, it's a skill you learn. These methods are like shortcuts to building it. Which one do you think would be the easiest to fit in your life today? What are the biggest mistakes people making while you're doing the 15-minute study journey? First, lack of focus. Trying to learn too many different things in a single session. The mistake is trying to embrace the world in 15 minutes. This leads to frustration and the feeling that the time wasn't well spent. Mistake number 2, absence of a plan. Starting a study session without knowing exactly what will be accomplished. Time is spent deciding what to study instead of actually studying. Mistake number 3, distractions. Believing that 15 minutes is such a short time that you don't need a distraction-free environment. The mistake is to study with the phone, nearby a TV. These completely destroy focus and learning efficiency. Now I'm going to show you how you are going to turn studying into an intentional and optimized process. You have to set the objective for each session. The night before, you have to define what you will accomplish with the next day's 15-minute slot. The goal needs to be clear and specific. For example, read up on the Git command or do 2 Java exercises loops. Create a ritual to sign to your brain that it's time to study, such as putting on your headphones. Third, use the Pomodoro technique. You will use a timer and you won't allow yourself to do anything else than what was planned for those 15 minutes. When the alarm goes off, then you stop. I have prepared for you a Java study plan, and you can find it in the description of the video. What do you need to learn on months 1 to 3? In this first phase, the goal is to create the habit of studying and to understand the basic logic. On the first week, you have to learn what is programming, why Java, variables and data types. Watch short videos, like 15 minutes, on getting started with Java. Understand what are int, double, and string. Practice declaring variables in an IDE. Week 2. Learn about arithmetical and logical operators, plus, minus, times, and divided by. And you have to learn how to make comparisons with double equals, greater than, and less than. On week 3, you are going to learn about control structures, the if-else. You have to learn the syntax and the logic of a simple condition. Then, write a small snippet of code using if-else. Week 4, control structures, for and while. You have to understand the logic of loops, and then practice simple exercises, such as printing the numbers from 1 to 10. On month 2, you have to learn about methods and functions. Learn how to create a simple method. For example, a method that receives two numbers and returns their sum. And you have to understand the difference between methods that return a value and those who don't. On month 3, you are going to focus on classes and objects. In this month, you have to understand the difference between a class, which is the template, and an object, the instance. Create your first simple class and an object from it. On months 4 to 6, you are going to focus on object orientation. On the second phase, the goal is to master the concepts about objects and classes, because they are the basis of Java. On month 4, you'll learn about constructors and encapsulation. You have to learn about how to use a constructor and how to initialize objects. You also have to understand what encapsulation means and how to use a private method. On month 5, you are going to focus on inheritance and polymorphism. Learn how to create a class that inherits from another. For example, a dog inherits from an animal. A dog is an animal. And then you have to understand how objects from different classes can have the same behavior. On month 6, you're going to focus on inputs and outputs. Learn to read data from your keyboard with the scanner. And then you learn how to print your information on the screen. Now we move to the phase of your first project, months 7 to 9. On this third phase, the goal is to apply the knowledge that you got into a real problem and build a portfolio. On month 7, you'll do the project planning. Break the problem down into small parts and define the scope. On month 8 is the actual coding and testing of the project. Use the TDD approach. Start implementing the project following the test-driven development logic. You write the tests first, then the code. Then publish your project to GitHub. Use the README to document your project. On month 9, you are going to optimize and refactor your project. Review your code. Make it cleaner and more efficient. Ask other developers for feedback, or you can use AI for improvements. On months 10 to 12, you are going to focus on networking and specialization. On this fourth phase, the goal is to position yourself in the market and to prepare for the selection process. On month 10, you are going to do the networking. Optimize your LinkedIn profile with the new skills and projects. Connect with developers and recruiters in Ireland. On month 11, you are going to focus on learning frameworks. Start learning about the Spring framework because it's in high demand for Java developers. And then you can try to adapt your previous project to using Spring. On month 12, you are going to focus on interview preparation. Study the most common technical and behavior interview questions, and also do a mock interview with a friend or a mentor. Start applying this project into practice. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share with those who dream with a tech career, and subscribe for more.